VikesNow. I am Dustin Baker, and I'm here with Sal Spice on our Friday segment. How are you, Sal?
Hi, I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. Tell us about your week. What have you been up to? School or what? What are you doing?
Oh man, yeah, school's wrapping up. Let's see. We haven't had a home game in forever, so I feel like I haven't really had that much to do. And then I know I'm beating a dead horse with this, but then we've got three in a row. So not really the forecast. I'm sure we'll talk about this next week, but as of now, the Cardinals game, the high is predicted to be 20 degrees.
hmm
So yeah, just chilling until then, pretty
I
much. But
I will maintain that when they made the schedule in May, when it got to the Vikings, they were like, "Yeah, just fill them in the cracks, please," because it's so weird that we basically had 1 month gaps, two of them between home games, and you can feel it in your bones because of what you do at the tailgate, and I know it because of the commuting schedule. Like it doesn't feel like I've been to a Vikings game in a long time, but yeah,
no.
yeah, these back to backers are fine. And then it'll actually be really sweet if they end up winning their 3 game road trip and then they come home for home cooking for 3 games. The
Yes.
the
It
first
works out for the team perspective. Like it's the best. You of course want to end your season at home, but like from my selfish perspective, it's like, come on, really? We didn't even because that October 20th game against the Lions, it was like 80 degrees.
hmm
So we didn't even really get a fall game because then like the night game when you came to the
hmm
tailgate, it was raining.
Yeah.
So we didn't really get like a fall weather game. So but whatever.
Before I ask you for specific reactions about the Titans win, this just came to mind. I found it really odd that there was some sentiment from prominent Vikings fans or voices this week, especially Sunday night into Monday, that was disappointed in the Vikings on the whole. I had some Twitter beefs where I think that there is some folks that are holding this team led by Sam Darnold without Christian Darrisaw to a Super Bowl standard, which I get. We don't ever want to be like, hey, 10-7 is good enough for us, baby. But I think they should receive some grace for doing this well in a season when they signed Darnold in March. We were all kind of like, oh God. And this is where we are at 8-2. Do you have any different perspective than mine that says we should be expected to win a Super Bowl each season we step on that field?
No, like, can we show them some grace? What do they have to do to get some grace? We've been asking. I truly don't understand it. And I keep trying to put myself because I feel like back in the day, let's say a decade ish ago, give or take, on Twitter, I felt like I was this agitator, this negative person who was like never really satisfied. But if I take a look at that time frame in those teams,
hmm
it was 2013, 14, like these teams that were I don't know. I guess that's not really fair because those were obviously not great teams either. But I think that they were just frustrating and I didn't have the expectation of them that they were necessarily going to be good. So it was
hmm
just criticizing them for typical Vikings losses and screw ups and stuff. But then this team, I certainly didn't have high hopes for, and they're exceeding all of my expectations, especially with Sam Darnold. And I think the lens has just gotten so skewed. You're exactly right that people are evaluating this like this was their Super Bowl season and they're not living up to this standard of blowing teams out on the road. And it's just look at the record and just shut up.
Yeah, and it's not
And
accidental like 2022. Like in 2022, all of the metrics said the Vikings are a bottom 10 football team that have this sweet 13-4 record. And to an extent, I think you could buy into that narrative that hey, these guys are fraudulent in living color. But what I don't like, for example, if Sam Darnold was the one solution at quarterback, like there was no draft pick of JJ McCarthy, I would be right there with some of these folks that are like, I don't know if this is going to work. I wouldn't bemoan an 8-2 record, like it's currently going on, but in order to buy into that, well, hey, they're only beating these shitty AFC teams by 10 points, which is a really
mm,
weird argument. You'd have to basically ignore that JJ McCarthy is not waiting to take the baton. That's the
yes,
only thing I can understand because there were some accounts that went really negative.
yeah, and like I was just saying with the how I used to be so angry all the time. Also, that was from this perspective of okay, Christian Ponder is our new
hmm
franchise quarterback, and we were so excited to see him, and you drafted him so high in the first round. That was where like the disappointment and the frustration, the anger came from because you never really saw it from him, or it would be tiny little flashes. So, but this is our gap quarterback before supposedly our future, next decade quarterback that's going to take us to this Super Bowl. Why not just enjoy how they're growing, how good the defense is playing, and take those as positives to go into next season instead of this doom and gloom. And I think a lot of people just hate Sam Darnold, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I think the true JJ McCarthy, the ones who have just been clamoring for him, who love him, hate the conversation of what's Sam Darnold going to do next year. They hate it. Even though logical people like you and I know Sam Darnold's not on this team. It's not happening, but they hate the conversation. And so now they feel like they can't like Sam Darnold at all. Like you can't root for him to be successful or it's a threat to the future of JJ McCarthy. And it's just not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be one thing if McCarthy was some fourth rounder that we just fell in love with and he was our Jaron Hall type. But no, this is the guy that the Vikings love. And before his meniscus injury, looked great. And so I just don't share and I didn't even like the Darnold signing. I wanted it to be McCarthy the whole time. But I've warmed up to it like a reasonable adult and thinking, hey, this guy's playing great. This is a like a symbiotic relationship. Like he can go hopefully get another sweet contract, whether he's a starter or a bridge guy. I think that was probably the goal for him and the Vikings when they drafted McCarthy the whole time.
Yep. And he had his best game since September, this past Sunday against the Titans. So just enjoy that. That's what I'm saying. I think that they just don't want him to be good because they feel threatened or something. And I just don't understand that mindset.
Darnold was actually fantastic against the Titans, and the only reason that we didn't really yell it with full throats is because they won 23-13. The Vikings were like a Jalen Naylor drop touchdown away from blowing the doors off the Titans.
It was a beautiful pass.
Oh God,
Beautiful.
it was so pretty. In real time I was like, oh, somebody knocked it away, huh? And then they showed the replay, and I'm like, oh no, it was like Irv Smith at Philadelphia. You remember that pass?
Oh my God. Yes.
The one yeah.
There's so many traumas in Philadelphia. The dogs are now fighting, so apologies.
It happens. My dogs are at the groomers, so my house is silent. They go
The
twice per
Bassets get groomed.
twice per year. They go and they do the nails thing because we're not good at that, and then they get their ears cleaned. Yeah,
Oh, get the wrinkles all scrubbed out.
yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know the Bassets were so high maintenance
No,
with
they're
their
not, but
kids.
we spoil them, I guess you should say, which you should
Yeah.
appreciate.
Oh, of course. They deserve it.
What is your on the Titans? The Vikings won 23-13. When you got off the couch that day, what'd you feel?
I felt good about it. I think that, I mean, obviously the defense played great. It was nice to see that again. And I mean, I guess we've already touched on it. I was so happy to see Sam Darnold kind of redeem himself with this game here and hopefully right the ship now and let's get back to it. Now, do I expect him to go back to September numbers? Absolutely not. But I think a mix between what we saw those last two games against the Colts and against the Jags, and then what we did see in September is perfectly reasonable and acceptable for him to do. And so that made me very happy going forward for sure.
Yeah, I could make the case that was the most important game of his career, and I know that's a pretty bombastic take, but he hardly ever gets to week 11 of a season because the other team has benched him, or I think he got hurt once for the Jets. And so for him to bounce back from a putrid Jaguars performance and really play, if they wouldn't have credited him the damn fumble, it would have been a flawless performance. So, and I didn't know what to expect. I figured he'd play better than 3 interceptions in the red zone, but I didn't know that he would be slinging it. And the Vikings
and their
needed
defense was better.
Yeah.
Also, so that was a concern.
Yeah, and I hope Jalen Naylor has a redemption moment this week or next or soon because man, that was right in his breadbasket. Was there anything about the win in Tennessee that you were like, meh, okay, like whether it's something on the offense or defense?
Not that I remember, to be honest. It's kind of in the rear view for me right now, so I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than you just said with Naylor, because it's like we've had the 2 off seasons now of just everybody just so excited to see him. We can't wait. There's all stuff surrounding him, this hype, and then he's here, and it's like, I mean, he did okay when he's been in the game, but it was just super disappointing.
Yeah, I in my heart of hearts, unless he goes on this little spree in the last, I have him pegged as a WR4 henceforth, and I hope the Vikings explore free agency or maybe one of those 5th rounders on a WR3. Like, I don't hate the guy. I don't think he sucks. But his production to me, he's not on pace to even produce as much as KJ Osborne. So yeah, he's had some cool moments and some touchdowns, and then he had the sweet block that sprung that Jefferson touchdown against the 49ers, I think. But yeah, I'm not convinced that Naylor should be the WR3 next year.
I guess I did think of something. Parker Romo missing the extra point.
Yeah,
That was, when you dress up, I mean, you saw his outfit, right?
yeah, the
He
Undertaker.
struts in. And I love it. I love that he did that. But it was like when he missed that extra point at first, it was like, God damn it. He
Yeah,
got it, he righted the wrong, but so that I guess just seeing that it's possible is
I'll have to check.
concerning.
Yeah, I'll have to check to see if our missed kick streak is still alive. Whenever the Vikings miss a kick in the last 4 years or so, it means they're going to win. It's a very, very weird stat. I haven't updated.
Oh,
Yeah, I haven't updated that stat in this season. But yeah, it's one of the weirdest stats that there is. So
let me grab these breaks.
we did the Believe in Vikings show for multiple years. So we've been through Bears week, gosh, at least 8 times. And you probably know that I am always pessimistic going to Soldier Field as a Viking fan and a guy who writes about the team. And this year is no different. The Bears were this close to beating the Packers. And I know the Bears have been disarrayed, so to speak, and they fired the offensive coordinator, but I can feel it in my bones. I hope that I'm wrong, like I was wrong about the Jets game. I have a feeling the Vikings are going to lose this one. Do you have a different take than that?
I totally can relate to what you're saying. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I would normally feel that same way. It is always hideous games at Soldier Field. It's not usually much better when they play, here in
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota. We had the Josh Dobbs game that we were all so excited for. Ends up being 4 interceptions. I mean, there's a million over the years, and still, again, next month we get another one of these in prime time. It'll never make sense to me. But of course, it's always rough when you go there, but I think everything that's going on with them, all of the drama that's in the locker room, they start out 6-2, they have a bye, they lose 4 games, they have that heartbreaker with the Hail Mary in Washington, then how they lose to the Packers last week. And then out of the locker room, a couple weeks ago, everybody's talking trash about Caleb Williams and nobody likes him. And then everyone's talking crap about the head coach, and what the coach is saying at the press conference is the players are coming out and disputing. And it just seems like there is so much drama and no cohesion in that locker
Mm-hmm.
room that after another devastating loss like that, I don't see how they rally together and are like, hey, we're going to go beat this team that is really good. I just don't, obviously can happen. I'm not as concerned about that as I normally would be.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. I think if I am wrong, which I 1000% want to be, it will be because Brian Flores is smarter than Caleb Williams as a rookie and that they just fluster the shit out of him. That's what I'm banking on to be wrong. But it's kind of when my prediction was reaffirmed watching Steelers Browns last night. That's like exactly. Maybe there won't be a bunch of snow, but a 2-8 team versus an 8-0 team, 8-2 team. It didn't feel like those teams were worlds apart. And
Mm-mm.
that's how it is when the Vikings and Bears show down almost every game, and especially at Soldier Field. The one thing about Caleb Williams and that I want to point out is if you ever want to know why the Bears can't solve the quarterback thing, I think we're living a case study of it. Now he has got plenty of time to flourish. I'm sure they'll get a new head coach here in 2 or 3 months, and his whole clock will be renewed. But he's not like I don't perceive Caleb Williams as the ultimate king of positivity or a big culture guy. He seems kind of like Kyler Murray and a little bit moody about stuff. And so I think as you're seeing their season disintegrate, this is what happens to Bears quarterbacks. This is why they're almost like the Vikings, who notoriously have struggled to nail down that position as well.
Well, Ryan Poles always gets praised as this genius GM. However, you had Justin Fields, you never got him an offensive line. You think you send him away, he's the issue. I mean, I don't watch a ton of Bears football, but I always knew like you guys aren't giving him the tools to succeed here. He's just getting killed out there every week. It doesn't matter how mobile he is. He can't succeed. You don't fix the offensive line again. Now you go and draft highly, get Caleb Williams, give up a bunch to get him, and then you're again not protecting him. And then the offensive line that they already had that wasn't good has more injuries on it. And they did this. This was before Ryan Poles, obviously, but they did this with Mitch Trubisky as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they keep drafting these guys so high, and they don't give them the tools for success. Why do you have a defensive minded coach who doesn't give a shit about the quarterback that you're drafting? Yeah, I don't under none of it defies logic to me.
Yeah, and Eberfluss was Poles' pick too, so it's not like that guy's just living on borrowed time. I'm sure he will be fired, but this is Poles' baby. And on top of the offensive line woes, it's the fact that Poles was an offensive lineman, like in
Right.
college. Yeah,
Right.
like Boston College. He should know that this is like the most important spot in football, at least per his estimation. I
Did
want to
you watch their Hard Knocks?
no,
Okay, I tried to watch it, but it ended up being pretty boring. But if it was the weirdest vibe of the Hard Knocks because it seemed like the focus of it was Eberflus and his new look, this makeover that he had and his new hairstyle and his beard. It was so much about these things that don't matter. And there wasn't a lot about the actual team and being excited for the season and seeing this camaraderie that you see in all the other seasons of Hard
yeah.
Knocks that are fun. It was just such a bizarre thing. Like they're at Eberflus's house all the time, having parties. It was just bizarre. So I don't think their priorities have been straight since the jump.
I watched the Giants Hard Knocks, and that was pretty awesome. And I learned from that Hard Knocks that even though they released Daniel Jones today, I'm pretty damn sure they're going to fire everybody. Mainly
He got
because,
released today?
yeah, Daniel Jones asked for his release, and they granted it. He can sign anywhere tomorrow. Yeah, that
What?
was like
Oh my
15 minutes ago.
God.
So you get a pass for not knowing that news. Yeah,
Wow.
it's such
Oh.
a weird odyssey. I mean, he's leapfrogged Ryan Tannehill right now as the quarterback you'd go get if your guy gets hurt and you're in the postseason.
Oh my God, he owes the Vikings. The Vikings really, really fucked up getting him that contract, or maybe not actually, but
No,
uh, mm,
the last thing on Caleb Williams is he got really good for 2 games. I posted a stat on Blue Sky that showed, week 1 through, I can't remember what it was. The 2 games he became, by the numbers, a top one quarterback, like efficiency wise, were against the Panthers and the Jaguars. And
oh
so,
wow.
yeah, the Bears had a really easy schedule out of the gate, unlike the Vikings. It was flipped. The Vikings had a tough schedule and the Bears had a difficult one. And so I think you're kind of seeing the natural rookie regression to a harder schedule for Williams. So we shall see what Flores has dialed up. All right, I got to ask you about this. We just talked about Daniel Jones. All of a sudden, in the Vikings 2025 rumor mill, we have Aaron Rodgers, who probably
Mm.
won't be with the Jets for too much longer because there's no way the general manager runs it back with him. And Daniel Jones is going to be a free agent in like 23 hours. Do you foresee? I certainly don't think you endorse it, but do you foresee any continuation of a bridge quarterback with Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers, assuming they want an insurance plan for McCarthy, who will basically feel like a rookie this coming summer?
I absolutely do not see the Aaron Rodgers situation happening for many reasons. For one, the price tag it is not going to be the bridge quarterback price, most likely. Also, just who he is and what he's shown the last several years of what he caused in Green Bay and his disputes with LaFleur that were very obvious. Now, what he's done over, in New York, trying to be a general manager and getting his coach fired and then, getting Devontae over there. And then that's not actually the issue either. I don't think that Kevin O'Connell would take a guy like that and put him in this locker room with this impressionable young group of guys who have a really good thing going. I
Mm-hmm.
don't see him considering messing with that for somebody who's going to tell him what to do. That's just not going to work out for him. Daniel Jones is an interesting one because he is kind of, I can see him on the same level as like the Sam Darnold of
Mm-hmm.
if he gets a coach that supports him and can give him the tools to succeed, could he be Darnold like? So that one's intriguing. I guess I would have to know more about the contract and things like that, what he would, but that one is significantly more likely than Rodgers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the reason I even entertain, well, Rodgers I have to talk about because there's too many Brett Favre parallels. Like it's so weird how
Yeah.
everything has played out.
Yes.
And kind of the Facebook crowd has said, "Hey, what about Rodgers?" Because that's kind of what they do. With Daniel Jones, as what I would hope would be the bona fide QB2 and not some summer competition bullshit. I think he would be gettable for a Darnold-like contract. So, and he has that O'Connell personality where he's optimistic, upbeat, always says the right thing. It would kind of get on my nerves if I had to think about Daniel Jones and McCarthy being in the same conversation for 8 months of the offseason,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't quite hate that. And he's gonna get a crowd. We have 7 games left, and there are probably half the league at least thinks they're gonna make the playoffs, and there's one injury away from him being the top guy any team calls because he doesn't suck. He's just not worthy of the $40 million per season contract that he got. And he doesn't
Right.
quite have the arm strength as Sam Darnold, but he won a playoff game for God's sake. And we know
Right.
who he beat. All right. So
Mhm.
earlier You talked about McCarthy. This is the last thing I want to cover with you. I think we both hope, and I think most of the fan base hopes, maybe not, that McCarthy is given the title of QB1 and we have a relatively boring summer about a quarterback thing. But you also said you don't expect Darnold to be back. The only way I can see Darnold coming back to this team is if he looks at the lay of the land in the NFL and they're all bridge quarterback assignments again. Like if the Raiders draft Shooter Sanders or the Titans say, well, we're still starting Will Levis. He basically checks the market and sees that he can't get more than 15 million or so, and then comes back to the Vikings. That's the only way I can see it. I know what you want. We both want McCarthy to be ready, but what do you think is the most realistic option when we get to the offseason for the Vikings at quarterback? Is it just re-upping with Nick Mullins and doing McCarthy and Mullins? Is it finding a way to get Darnold back at 15 mil? What is your gut telling you right now?
Well, I think it's going to obviously be so dependent on where McCarthy is at with his injury. I know everyone is coming out and saying this procedure wasn't a big deal. He's still right on track. That doesn't really make sense to me because it just defies logic to me of what do you mean he's right on track, but he had to have this procedure that normally you don't have to have. Why is he still having so much swelling that he needs to have a procedure if he's right on track? It just contradicts itself. So I think it depends on where he's at if that's something that they're going to need to pursue. The reason I don't think that Sam is going to be available or around is because I mean, and it's going to have a lot to do with how this season plays out, how it finishes. But where we were looking, in October, well, it's like Sam's going to get a couple-year deal at least. Why would he sign another 1-year deal with the Vikings or anyone? So I think it's going to depend. If he keeps playing, I think like he's playing, against the Titans, he does have the opportunity, I think, to get a couple, maybe even a 3-year deal and see how it goes. So it doesn't benefit him to sign a 1-year deal really anywhere if that's a possibility. However, I think if the options out there, the lay of the land is going to be Carolina or the Jets, he certainly ain't going to go there. And I think he's learned a lot now about what he needs to succeed. And if he doesn't see that as an option either in the other coaches or franchises that want him, then possibly I can see it. But I think off-season wise, I really hope that you're right and we don't have to have this debate for an entire offseason, but it's just going to have so much to do with where JJ is at that I don't know. I hope that it's just his ship to drive. Nick Mullins, I think I can't really see them going with that as a starter option just because of how well this team has played this year, especially with the defense. And if they're going to end up, fingers crossed, finishing it out second in the division, then I don't think you can risk going with the Nick Mullins and that being your one sore, really. So it'll be interesting. I really just hope it's JJ and we don't have to worry about it.
I will,
as we all do.
I don't know what month it would be. If we get to February or March and there are concerns that the meniscus isn't healing as quickly as it should, this franchise is doomed. Meniscuses are not a ginormous deal. This isn't Hawkinson or Darrisaw's injury. And I don't think it will get there. But yeah, he had an injection, whatever that means. Conveniently, I'm writing an article.
I think what was concerning though is that it was also exploratory, which means it was with a scope, which everyone wants to be like, oh, a scope, like that's not a big deal. I'm no orthopedic surgeon, but I have had 3 knee surgeries. And so I know what a scope is. And obviously JJ McCarthy is working with the best doctors in the world, the best doctors in the country. He's working with the best training staff available. I mean, they've been rated A or A plus by the NFL Player Association every year since Eric Sugarman has been out of there. So if these trainers, if these people are looking at it and they're like, oh, well, we actually need to go do some exploring. That's why it concerns me that maybe it isn't as insignificant as they say. But you're right. I mean, meniscus is the easiest thing that you can fix. And we were all happy that they decided to go for the full repair instead of the tear, or just fixing, oh my gosh, I'm losing what I'm saying. But, they decided to go for the full surgery instead of the little fix so that this could hopefully never be an issue in the future. So that also does take longer to recover from. But yeah, then yeah, we would be, I might not finally buy into the cursed bit if we saw one preseason drive.
Yeah, no, I think that's just all our doomsdayist thinking, like just a bad luck that's bound to happen. I don't think it will happen. Conveniently, I'm writing an article about Sam Darnold's possible landing spots. So I'm going to give you 1 to 10, 10 being the most likely in terms of, oh yeah, shit, that makes sense. Give me a 10 on these teams or 1 flat out not happening. I will mention this one that you don't have to assign a grade. If Tua Tagovailoa took another concussion like on Sunday, they would probably need a quarterback. So you don't have to do that one. The Colts with Anthony Richardson, 1 to 10, Darnold there.
Oh man, that's so interesting. Because of how this has all transpired the last few weeks. Maybe a 5.
5. Cleveland Browns, because Deshaun Watson very vividly isn't the solution. I don't think he ever gets back to form.
I really hope not for his sake. However, I see that one as more likely, maybe an 8 because, we've got Kevin Stefanski, former quarterbacks coach and all of that. However, Stefanski really surprised me. I thought he was this offensive genius and quarterback guru, and he still went and blew his career on Deshaun Watson. So,
although Winston looked pretty dapper last night.
Oh my God, it was so fun watching him in the post game.
And that game was I can't think of a game where we just didn't know that was going to be a snow game, and it just showed up.
It reminded me so much of that game when the Vikings played in Baltimore in 2013. I went to that game and it was the same kind of visibility and just and the fans were all still there and still hyped, and it was really fun game to watch. Jameis was one I thought of last night though that I could maybe see the Vikings doing as like a bridge, if they needed to, because he has that young, fun personality that I think would be really successful in this locker room. And Kevin O'Connell would like to coach. But anyways, back to Sam.
And we already know that Jameis knows his role and can be like the best human imaginable inside of it, which I think Kevin O'Connell would covet. Raiders, probably patching over to Shadur Sanders or somebody.
That one I definitely see as more likely. So let me talk the Browns down to like a 7, and I'll put Raiders as an 8.
The Titans, even though Will Levis looked pretty good against the Vikings, I don't know what they're going to do with him. Darnold to the Titans.
Does he have another? He still has another year, right?
Oh, Levis has got 2 more years after this.
Oh, because it's 4 years because he's the first round. I would say no, like a 4.
Okay. The New York Giants. No plan at quarterback right now.
That would be pretty likely, I guess, because I could see Dable maybe a 9.
The Los Angeles Rams, especially if Matthew Stafford retires.
That one's an interesting one. If Stafford is gone, I think that one, maybe I'll say a 9 if Stafford retires for that, because I think McVay, especially seeing after what KOC did with him, that could work.
My dream for Darnold is henceforth he gets bounced around from Shanahan coaching tree guys, whether it's LaFleur or Zach Taylor, because I think they all can unlock him to this current standard, which is doable. And then the Vikings.
Me too. Vikings, I'm going to say a 1.
Wow, you're really that out on that possibility, huh?
I just don't see it. I just don't see. I think, say he went to the Rams. I think the Rams are going to give him a 2-year or something. Like, I don't see for him, because he can get injured at any time, right? So why does it benefit him to take a 1-year unless his only other options are those nightmare options that are going to bring out the ghosts? I don't see why he would sign a 1-year anywhere. This is his chance to get paid. He didn't get that before because of his situation. He obviously had his rookie contract. This is like his free agency test that, not after showcasing what he can do.
Yeah, I don't know if Stafford is knocking on the door of retirement. What is he, 37? But to me, that one makes all the sense in the world, because McVay and O'Connell basically would do the Spider-Man meme and say, well, if he can do it there, then he can do it with Puka and Cooper Kupp and whoever else we draft. All right, I have the Vikings losing to the Chicago Bears 20-14. What do you got?
I have them winning. I am relieved that I saw the weather report today. Somebody on my show last night was in the chat saying it was going to be raining and all of this. And so I didn't fact check it, and I just went with that. So then I was really scared because I'm thinking people are going to get injured. This is going to be a sloppy mess. I think it's supposed to be like 52 and cloudy, no rain. So I'm relieved about that. I think they will win, only because I feel the Bears' self-destruction is so powerful. I'll say 27-19.
Okay. Yeah, that one's so much better than mine. All right, Sal, we shall talk to you probably at an adjusted Friday time because it's Black Friday next week. And then we'll coordinate with you behind the scenes. You have a lovely weekend, okay?
Thank you. Tell Yannick I said hi, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, likewise. Take it easy.
Yep. Bye.
Later.